It started with wine. Not a fancy Bordeaux or something aged in a French oak barrel, just a cheap, overly enthusiastic red blend from a Brooklyn bodega that claimed to pair well with regret. Isadora Mendes, known como Izzy para os íntimos, sat curled up in a blanket, her laptop open, swiping through Hinge like she was sorting through resumes, every face a possible disappointment, every bio a tiny red flag. She wasn't expecting to match with someone intriguing, but Harper stood out. His profile had none of the usual thirst traps, just a clean smile, a half-rolled sleeve, and a tagline that read, "Sarcasm is my cardio, burritos are my church." She rolled her eyes, but the smirk stayed, and against her better judgment, she messaged him first, leading to a digital ping-pong of wit, memes, and one surprisingly deep 2 a.m. chat about grief and Taylor Swift lyrics. Their date was set for Thursday night at a little place near Delancey, the kind with flickering candles, overly ambitious pasta, and servers who pretended not to judge. "Your wine choice." Harper arrived 10 minutes early and texted, "I'm the guy who looks too confident but internally panicking," which made Izzy laugh out loud before she even walked in. When she did, he stood to greet her, and something about the moment felt unexpectedly cinematic. Their conversation flowed like they'd known each other in another life, bouncing from dumb childhood injuries to their mutual hatred for group brunches. She liked how he listened, how he threw in dry jokes like grenades, and how he didn't seem fazed when she said she liked true crime podcasts to relax. He leaned in closer during dessert, the air warm with wine and something unsaid, and then it happened. The line that detonated the whole night. "I just think it's wild," Harper said, his fork twirling pasta like a prop, "that people genuinely believe they can find true love on a dating app. Then they're shocked when they're in therapy 3 months later with joint custody of a dog and emotional trauma they can't afford to unpack." The fork paused mid-air. Izzy blinked. The romantic tension shattered like cheap glass. She tilted her head, eyes sharp, and replied with a practiced calm that barely masked her annoyance. "That's an interesting take from someone who thought sarcasm made him charming." He grinned, oblivious. "Only when it's deserved. Guess I missed the mark tonight." She finished her wine in one long sip and stood before the check-even, hit the table. The ride home felt longer than it should have, her mind looping the conversation like a glitch. When she got the message an hour later, "Had fun. Let's try again Friday?" She didn't even hesitate. Block, delete, goodbye. He went back to being a digital ghost in a sea of swipes. 3 days later, Izzy walked into a meeting with her team in the dev department, groggy from an all-nighter with spreadsheets and a terrible rerun of Grey's Anatomy. The topic was platform integration, the usual chaos, and a new consultant brought in to streamline the back end, something she barely cared to remember, until she heard his voice before seeing him. "Morning, folks, I'm the new guy. Don't worry, I'll only ruin half your workflow." Her head snapped up. "No freaking way." Harper stood there in a crisp shirt, laptop in hand, and that same insufferable smirk that now made her blood boil. He didn't flinch when their eyes met, just gave her a small nod, like they were strangers meeting for the first time. She sat slowly, jaw tight, knuckles white on her coffee cup. Maybe he wouldn't say anything. Maybe he had enough professionalism to keep their failed Hinge date out of the office. That illusion lasted 12 minutes. Right in the middle of a UI wireframe discussion, he looked straight at her and said, "Hey, just confirming, you haven't blocked anyone in this room recently, right? Just trying to feel safe." Laughter exploded across the room. Izzy wanted to murder him with her mechanical pencil. "I block bad interfaces, not bad dates," she shot back, smiling sweetly while stabbing her notepad. From that moment on, it was war. Silent, petty war. He always left his charger tangled near her desk. She accidentally scheduled meetings during his lunch. He renamed one of her folders emotionally unavailable.pdf. Later that afternoon, Izzy was trying to explain an implementation roadmap to a room full of distracted developers when she felt him staring. Harper leaned against the doorway, sipping his coffee like it was whiskey in an indie film. He didn't say anything. He just raised a single eyebrow when her slide glitched and the formatting broke mid-sentence. Need a back-end guy? He mouthed, grinning. She resisted the urge to throw her clicker at him. She spent the next hour avoiding eye contact while secretly updating her resume for the 5th time that month. It wasn't that Harper was terrible at his job. He was annoyingly good. The worst part, he actually made her laugh when she wasn't supposed to, like when he muttered death by bullet points during their team sync, and she choked on her coffee mid-laugh snort at 5:30 after Harper had finally left for the day, or so she thought. Izzy exhaled in the break room like she'd survived an emotional boot camp. She made the mistake of relaxing. He reappeared 2 seconds later to grab a granola bar. "Oh," he said casually, "you're still here, recovering from that Hinge PTSD?" She rolled her eyes so hard she nearly saw another dimension. "Actually," she replied coolly, "I have a second date tonight, and this one knows how to read a room." He nodded, impressed. "Bold, hope he doesn't talk about shared pet custody on date 1. She walked past him without a word, but with just enough hip swing to feel like she won that round. Half. A win was still a win. Back home, she stared at her closet like it held the answer to world peace. Her best friend Danny had insisted she get back out there. "The best way to forget a bad date is to go on a worse one," Danny said. Turns out Danny was a prophet. Her Hinge date was 35 minutes late, allergic to eye contact, and ranted about how oat milk was killing masculinity. When she finally got home, Izzy dropped her bag, peeled off her shoes, and let out a sound between a sigh and a scream. She poured herself the last of that bodega wine, grabbed a leftover burrito, and collapsed onto the couch. Her brain spun like a buffering screen. Somewhere between bites, she opened Slack to check for project updates. And of course, there was Harper's status. "Still not over the breakup I wasn't part of." The next morning, she arrived at the office with the grace of a hangover. Without alcohol, her shoulders were tight, her eyes half closed, and her hair was threatening rebellion. At her desk, she sipped iced coffee like it held divine forgiveness. Harper walked by humming a Taylor Swift song, "You Belong With Me," and she nearly inhaled her straw. He dropped a report onto her desk without looking at her and said, "Thought you might need the actual data for that feature you pitched yesterday. Or are you going to just wing it again and charm everyone?" She smiled without teeth. "Ah, you remembered. I'm touched." He shrugged, walking away. Hard to forget a storm when you're still in the eye of it. Midday, they ended up in a conference room together to finalize the system migration timeline. Alone, of course. The tension was the third person in the room, sitting right between them. Every sentence felt like it had 2 meanings. Every shared glance like it might start a fire. She hated how much her stomach flipped when he leaned over her laptop to point out something she missed. At one point, their hands brushed. She didn't pull away, neither did he. He didn't look at her. She didn't breathe. The moment passed, and so did the slide deck, but her pulse hadn't calmed by the time she reached for her water bottle, and missed, knocking it to the floor. Harper bent to grab it, but she beat him to it, their faces suddenly too close. She stood up faster than was humanly dignified. Later that night, she called Danny. "He's infuriating," Izzy said, "and also helpful, and also funny. And his code is clean, which is weirdly hot." Danny laughed like she'd been waiting for this. "You've got it bad," Izzy groaned. "I've got it inconvenient and temporary. He's here for 2 months, then gone. No strings, no danger, just whatever this is." But whatever this is started showing up in little ways. Harper brought her favorite scone to the Monday meeting. She shared her Spotify playlist, and he sent her a playlist back called "Songs for Someone Who Pretends She Doesn't Like Me." She wanted to delete it. She saved it instead. She told herself it meant nothing. That Friday they worked late. Again. Harper stayed quiet most of the evening, which somehow made her more aware of him. When he finally spoke, it was quiet. "Do you ever stop pretending everything's just banter?" She paused. "Do you ever stop using sarcasm as a defense?" He gave her a look she wasn't ready for, so she laughed, and he smiled. There was a beat of silence. Then, like a dam cracking, Izzy stepped forward and kissed him. Not the polite kind, not maybe this is a mistake kind. The kind of kiss that has years of frustration packed into a single breath, a kiss like a door slammed open. Harper didn't hesitate. He kissed her back like he'd been waiting since the first sarcastic comment. Their mouths moved like they were making up for lost time, for every sidelong glance, every eye roll that was secretly desire in disguise. Her fingers fumbled with his shirt buttons, his hands pressed against the copier table like he needed it to stay upright. When she pulled away for a breath, her eyes narrowed. "Storage closet now," he blinked. "You serious?" "Move," she said, already storming down the hallway. He followed like a man heading to battle, slightly afraid, extremely interested. Inside the cramped supply closet, surrounded by cardboard boxes and the scent of toner, Harper raised an eyebrow. "People in Grey's Anatomy hook up in hospitals. Why can't we commit workplace sin in a closet that smells like expired bleach?" She shoved him against the wall and tugged at his hoodie. "Do you have jokes for everything?" "Only when I'm nervous," he replied, already breathless. "Liar," she said, kissing him again. "The rest?" "Let's just say the janitor definitely," knocked and left, muttering something about millennials and HR violations. Later that night, Izzy lay face down on her bed, groaning into a throw pillow. Her phone sat beside her, buzzing. She grabbed it and hit call. "You need to come over," she told Danny. "Bring wine and judgment." 15 minutes later, Danny was there, holding 2 bottles and a look of anticipation that could kill. "I'm gonna say something," Izzy began, eyes wide. "And you have to promise not to laugh." Danny sipped her wine dramatically. "Absolutely not, but proceed." Izzy took a breath. "I had sex in the office with the guy from Hinge in the supply closet during business hours." Danny stared, then exploded into laughter. "Girl," Danny said between cackles, "you're a walking HR violation with great taste in jawlines." Izzy pulled a blanket over her face. "I can't even look at myself. I'm a professional. I had a plan. This was not the plan." Danny flopped beside her. "Okay, but counterpoint, he's hot, the tension was unbearable, and the sex was probably insane. Live a little." "It's not just the sex," Izzy muttered. "I mean, yeah, it was ridiculous. But I didn't want this. I wanted a real relationship, a future. I want kids, a home. Not to be a single mom to a sarcastic man-child." Danny nodded, suddenly serious. "Okay, fair. But let's not pretend this has to be all or nothing yet. You've got 2 months, use it." The next morning, Izzy entered the office pretending nothing had happened, which lasted until she reached her desk and saw the box. Sleek, ribboned, definitely not from the office vending machine. Inside was a set of chocolate truffles from Jacques Torres and a small note, written in Harper's obnoxiously perfect handwriting. "I'm assuming your mood today is better than the last time we collaborated. H." She stared at the note for a long minute, then at the chocolate, then at the note again. Her face did something strange, half eye roll, half smile. She quickly slid the box into her drawer before anyone saw and grabbed her laptop like it was a weapon. He didn't get to win. Not that easily. But when she passed his desk an hour later and muttered, "Still not accepting bribes," he looked up and grinned. "Wasn't a bribe. That was an apology pre-wrapped in cocoa." "Well," she replied, "it was unnecessary, but I did eat too." "I knew you would," he said. "That's why I sent the dark ones. You're a dark chocolate type. Bitter, dangerous, and deeply satisfying." She rolled her eyes, but didn't correct him. That afternoon, they shared an elevator alone and didn't say a word until the doors closed. Then he leaned against the wall and whispered, "So, storage closet again, or do you want to be classy and try an actual restaurant?" She laughed. "You think eating food in public makes us classy?" He shrugged. "Compared to copy paper foreplay? Yes." She looked him up and down. "I'll think about it." "You've got until Friday," he said. "Then I'm picking the place, unless of course you'd prefer the janitor's card again." She left the elevator shaking her head and smiling like an idiot. By Friday night, Izzy had almost convinced herself not to go. But then she looked at her calendar and saw the entry she had impulsively typed in all caps. Act like a grown-up, go on a date. That, and the fact that Harper had sent her a voice memo earlier saying, "If you stand me up, I'll assume it's revenge for the oat milk guy." She'd laughed out loud. Damn him. They met at a cozy spot in Williamsburg. Fairy lights, overpriced tapas, and a waiter who kept winking like he was in on a secret. Izzy wore black jeans, a silky blouse, and nerves wrapped around her ribs like a corset. Harper stood when she walked in, his usual hoodie traded for a navy button-down. "Wow," he said. "You clean up like a Pixar protagonist about to fall." "In love," she smirked. "Don't get cocky. This blouse has seen more rejection emails than you've had exes." He laughed, genuinely, and gestured to the table. The waiter poured wine. The conversation started with the menu, moved to music, and eventually slipped into something soft and unguarded. He talked about his mom, a librarian with too many mugs and not enough time, and how he missed her laugh. Izzy found herself telling him about the year her dad left, and how her dog had somehow been the only stable male presence in her life. They clinked glasses at that. At one point, Harper reached over to tuck a loose strand of her hair behind her ear, and she let him. "You're dangerous," she said quietly. He smiled. "So are you, but I'm still here." After dinner, they passed a dive bar with a karaoke sign glowing in faded neon. Harper stopped. "You're not a coward, are you?" "I literally sang Celine Dion in a fourth-grade talent show," she replied. "Then it's fate," he said, pulling her in. The bar smelled like tequila and bad choices. Perfect. She picked Edge of 17 by Stevie Nicks. He picked Mr. Brightside. Somewhere between those two songs, between her screaming into the mic and his ridiculous air guitar, they became that couple. Loud, laughing, magnetic, and the bartender gave them 2 free shots just to keep the energy going. He kissed her again on the walk home, soft, like punctuation at the end of a sentence neither of them wanted to finish. They didn't talk much after that, just held hands, just breathed in sync. At her door, he kissed her forehead. "Thanks for not ghosting me a second time." "You're not blockable anymore," she murmured. "That's big growth." The next week, things got blurry. At the office, they acted like coworkers with mild disdain and great mutual respect. But at night, they texted like teenagers, memes, voice notes, secret photos of snacks left on each other's desks. In meetings, they spoke in code, subtle, sharp, laced with something no one else caught. They met twice more outside the office. Once at a museum where Harper narrated fake backstories for Renaissance paintings until Izzy wheezed with laughter. Another time at her place, where they ordered Thai food and kissed for hours while half watching a documentary about whales. They were quiet in the way people are when they don't need words anymore. But office life? That was chaos. One afternoon, her teammate Sam walked by and whispered, "You and Harper got beef or just unresolved sexual tension?" Izzy blinked. "It's beef, the passive-aggressive, spreadsheet kind." Sam nodded. "Cool, just checking." She realized then they weren't exactly subtle. Harper seemed unfazed. He flirted with a straight face, passed notes during Zoom calls, and once changed her Slack status to emotionally compromised. She retaliated by sending him anonymous post-its that said things like, "Your code is sloppy, but your jawline is fine." Neither admitted it was getting messy. That Thursday, a client canceled a meeting, and they found themselves alone in the office again. He caught her in the stairwell, leaned close, and whispered, "We've got 20 minutes before anyone comes. Back. Supply closet?" "No," she said, lips brushing his. "But I'm not saying never." 10 minutes later, she found a granola bar on her keyboard with a note, "Respect your boundaries." But also, damn. She didn't know if she wanted to punch him or kiss him. Maybe both. That night, Danny called. "So, what are we labeling this thing?" Izzy sighed. "Probably illegal in most companies, but it feels good." Still, she couldn't ignore the nagging fear. It was fun, too fun. Harper had an end date. His contract would end in 6 weeks, and she was starting to picture longer timelines, dangerous ones. That night, as she lay in bed, she typed a message she didn't send. What happens after? Friday morning, Harper knocked on the side of Izzy's cubicle like it was a door to another world. "Hey," he said, already too cheerful for a pre-coffee conversation. "What are you doing this weekend?" Izzy squinted at him like he just asked her to run a marathon barefoot. "I plan to have a romantic weekend with my laundry pile." "Why?" He leaned in, lowering his voice like a conspirator. "My friends and I do this yearly beach trip. Montauk, rented house, bonfire, chaos. Phones off, drama off, just dumb people doing dumb things by the ocean. You in?" She tilted her head. "Phones off?" "It's tradition," he said. "Started in college. 1 weekend a year, analog life only." Izzy hesitated. "Let me get this straight. You want me to spend 48 hours with your developer cult in a house with no cell service?" "Exactly," he grinned. What could possibly go wrong? Against her better judgment, which lately had been on vacation, she said yes, mostly because he looked so damn excited. By Friday night, they were packed into a van filled with chips, tangled cords, and an actual air fryer. Harper drove with the windows down and sunglasses on, music blasting some playlist named Sunset Plus Serotonin. His friends were loud, quick-witted, and fiercely loyal. She could tell just by the way they argued about snacks like it was diplomacy. The beach house in Montauk had that kind of mismatched charm that looked like Pinterest got drunk and redecorated. Rooms were claimed quickly with the unspoken rule that couples, flings, or complicated situationships should probably double. "Purse?" Harper tossed his bag into a small room upstairs, then turned to Izzy. "So, roomies?" She raised an eyebrow but didn't argue. The bed creaked in protest as they dropped onto it later that night. Post-foguera, post-s'mores, post-laughter that left their faces sore. Lying beside Harper felt weirdly natural, like something her heart remembered before her mind caught up. He was warm and smelled like sunscreen, ocean, and a hint of cinnamon. She didn't sleep right away. She listened to his breathing. In the morning, she woke before him. The light crept in through gauzy curtains, highlighting the rise and fall of his chest, one hand loosely curled near her shoulder. He looked younger asleep, softer, quieter. She wanted to take a mental photo and frame it next to her tax returns, as proof that joy existed. She didn't dare move. Eventually, his eyes blinked open and he smiled like waking up beside her was better than pancakes. "Morning," he said, voice husky and low. "You drool a little, by the way." She shoved him with a laugh but didn't deny it. They shared the same blanket, same pillow, same silence that only people comfortable with each other could hold. Without rushing to fill, breakfast was loud. The developers cooked like it was a group project, full of mistakes, teamwork, and butter. Izzy laughed more that morning than she had all year. Harper kept refilling her coffee before she asked. When someone brought out a deck of cards and yelled strip speed, she grabbed Harper's hand and bolted outside. "Not before noon," she muttered. He grinned. "You're no fun." "I'm the most fun." They wandered the beach alone after that, Harper kicking at sand with his hands in his pockets. "You ever think about just staying?" he asked. She tilted her head. "At the beach? Anywhere. Like unplugging for real. No emails, no Slack, just people and sky and water. She stared at him like he was a puzzle she hadn't realized she wanted to solve. Back at the house, the group migrated to the pool. The boys were roughhousing like oversized toddlers. Izzy sat beside Eva, the only other girl in the group, sipping something fruity with too much ice. Eva glanced at Harper, now mid-cannonball, then back at Izzy. "It's nice to see him like this," she said, soft but clear. Izzy nodded, watching him surface, hair slicked back, grin wide, laughter echoing across the pool like music from a past life. "He seems really happy," she said, more to herself than to Eva. Eva's smile softened, then dimmed. He wasn't. Not for a long time. After Lily, everything changed. The name hit Izzy like a sudden drop in temperature. "Lily?" she asked, gently. Eva nodded. "She was his wife, also studied with us. I wasn't the only girl in this circus. She passed away. Car accident. 2 years ago." The world narrowed for a moment, the sound of waves and laughter retreating. Izzy looked again at Harper, now getting splashed in the face by Dev, laughing like the tragedy had never happened. "He never told me," Izzy whispered. Eva shrugged. "He doesn't tell most people. I think he's trying to live again. And maybe you're part of that." That night when they climbed back into bed, Izzy was quiet. Harper noticed. "What's going on in that head?" he asked, brushing hair from her eyes. "You ever lie awake and think maybe you're in over your head?" she whispered. He nodded slowly. "All the time. But sometimes drowning feels like floating, when it's with the right person." She kissed him, soft at first, then deeper, and when they moved together under the blanket, it wasn't frantic. It was tender, honest, built on more than sarcasm, and teasing. In the quiet after, she rested her head on his chest, his fingers tracing absent patterns on her back. "What if I mess this up?" she whispered. "Then we mess it up together," he said. Sunday came too fast. The trip ended like all great weekends, with sandy flip-flops, forgotten sunglasses, and the bittersweet taste of something you didn't want to leave. On the drive back, Harper reached over and laced his fingers with hers without saying a word. She held on tighter than she expected, like a maybe becoming something more. Back in Brooklyn, routine waited with open arms and grumpy emails. At the office, they resumed their little Cold War performance. Nods instead of hellos, banter instead of touch. But when no one was looking, his pinky would brush hers in passing. She found a note on her desk Monday morning, hidden beneath a box of La Maison du Chocolat truffles. The note read, "Liked your sunburn makeup. H." She rolled her eyes and hid the smile that bloomed like a secret. "Idiot," she muttered. The truffles didn't survive the hour. Neither did her denial. Danny texted, "How was your weekend with the weird nerd cult?" Izzy texted back, "Shut up, he has beach hair now." Izzy didn't mean to fall down the rabbit hole, but that's what Instagram is for, right? It started with a scroll through Harper's tagged photos, harmless curiosity, until she saw a name repeated in old birthday posts, blurry Polaroids, and group trips. Lily. Her heart paused. She tapped on the tag before her brain could stop her. Lily had the kind of beauty that didn't try. Sharp eyes behind thick glasses, messy buns, oversized cardigans, and captions full of dry humor. In one photo, she was wearing a "Java is my love language" shirt and hugging Harper like they were made to fit. Izzy stared until the room blurred around her. She wasn't trying to compare, but she was. Lily looked like someone Izzy could have been friends with, or even competed against in a coding hackathon and then laughed about it after. Then she saw the comments fade off 2 years ago. No more posts, no more tags. Just silence. Her fingers moved before logic kicked in. She Googled Lily Harper car accident, and there it was, a local paper, a tragic story buried under a traffic update and a city council meeting recap. Married 3 years. Car lost control on icy roads. No passengers. Declared dead on arrival. Date: 2 years and 4 months ago. The rest of the night felt heavy, like she was walking with wet clothes on. She didn't text Danny. She didn't open Slack. She just lay in bed staring at the ceiling, unsure if the tightness in her chest was sadness, jealousy, or guilt for feeling both at once. She eventually fell asleep with her laptop still glowing on her chest. The next morning the subway was too loud, her coffee too bitter, and Harper too Harper. He slid into the conference room with his usual swagger, dropped a sarcastic line about her spreadsheet being allergic to formatting, and expected the usual eye roll. Instead, she didn't look up. It took him 2 hours and 3 failed jokes before he finally hovered over her desk. "Okay," he said, arms crossed. "You either started microdosing rage or something's wrong. Which is it?" Izzy blinked at her screen, then turned, her expression softer than he expected. "I saw the photos," she said quietly. "Lily." Harper's smile froze mid-form. For a split second she thought he might actually crumble. But then came that grin, the one he used when someone cut him in line at the bagel shop or when he had to attend a meeting labeled mandatory fun. "Eva's a damn traitor," he said, running a hand through his hair. Izzy frowned. "Seriously? That's your first response?" Harper sighed, pulling out the chair next to her, slumping into it like he'd aged 10 years in 10 seconds. "I was gonna tell you next week, as part of my big finale. Right when I leave for the next gig. Cue the tragic violin, guilt trip, emotional manipulation, classic rom-com strategy." She stared at him, wide-eyed. "You're unbelievable." He held up his hands. "Hey, it's not like I was gonna fake cry. I was just gonna look wistful at sunset and let the sympathy do the heavy lifting." She buried her face in her hands. "This can't be real. I mean," he shrugged, "or fall in love with a guy in a hoodie who once insulted shared dog custody." Izzy peeked between her fingers. "You're exhausting. But charming," he added with a wink. "Anyway, enough with the dead wife plot twist. I'm making pasta tonight. My place. No ghosts, no drama. Just carbs, questionable. Wine and me pretending to be emotionally well-adjusted. You in?" She didn't answer right away. He stood lightly tapping her desk. "I have a bathtub that smells like pine and sadness. It deserves better memories." And with that, he walked off, whistling some obnoxiously upbeat tune that made her want to throw a stapler at his back. But instead she just watched him go. The chair beside her still held the warmth of his body. The scent of his cologne lingered. Her chest felt tight again, but in a different way this time. Was this what falling for someone felt like? Like realizing a joke had a second meaning, and suddenly you weren't laughing anymore? She sat at her desk for a long time, letting the noise of the office blur into static. Harper had lost someone real, someone important, and now he was here, crashing into her life with pasta invites and bad analogies, pretending it didn't still hurt, pretending like she wouldn't break his heart next. But maybe she already was, and maybe she didn't want to. Harper's apartment was exactly what Izzy expected, and nothing like it all at once. Cluttered shelves of sci-fi books, a vintage typewriter that didn't work, a lava lamp that absolutely did. "This place screams man who owns 3 spatulas," but 0 clean. Mugs? She teased. Correction, he said, holding up a mismatched ceramic. 1 mug, technically chipped but emotionally intact. He wore an apron that said, "I kiss better than I cook," which made her laugh hard enough to spill her wine. "You're not serious," she said, wiping a tear. "Deadly," he replied. "Now watch me butcher this marinara like it's an unsolicited Slack message at midnight." He added too much garlic, then more. She didn't stop him. They danced between the kitchen counter and terrible playlist transitions, Harper narrating every stir like it was a Michelin feature. "This is my signature dish, sad noodles a la heartburn," he announced. Izzy leaned against the fridge, smiling. "I have a feeling this'll be burned into my memory, and maybe my esophagus." Dinner tasted like enthusiasm and poor judgment, but Harper plated it with such ceremony that she clapped. "You cooked," she said. "With actual fire." He bowed dramatically, and no one's eyebrows were harmed. They ate at his tiny table with 2 short legs and drank cheap red from mismatched glasses. After clearing the table, he insisted on doing the dishes like a grown man with regrets. He emerged from the bathroom with a sheepish look. "So, I might have prepped the bath." Izzy raised a brow. "You might have." "Okay, I absolutely did. Don't judge me. I got bath salts and everything. Lavender. Because I'm cultured." The tub was deep and claw-footed, surrounded by candles that probably came in a bundle from a clearance sale. "This is absurd," she said, stepping in, "and somehow perfect." The water was warm, the light golden. Harper slipped in behind her, careful, quiet, no smirks. Just silence, broken only by soft breathing and ripples. She leaned back against his chest, surprised by how safe it felt. "This feels illegal," she murmured. "We should be arrested for being this cliché." He chuckled. "I'd post bail, maybe, depending on the crime." They sat there submerged in more than water, in all the things they weren't saying out loud. "Lily used to hate baths," he said suddenly. His voice didn't waver, just floated. "She said they were boring, like tea without purpose." Izzy didn't flinch. She just listened. "I think I hated them too, until now." His fingers found hers under the water, threading carefully. "You make stillness feel like something." Izzy turned slightly, just enough to look at him. "You have the worst timing, you know that?" "Terrible," he agreed without missing a beat. "Which is why I'm saying this now and not like a month ago." She tilted her head, narrowing her eyes. "What exactly are you saying?" He took a deep breath. "I want to date you, for real, publicly, romantically, like shared Netflix. Passwords and toothbrush space kind of dating." He paused, thinking for a second, then added, a little too honestly, "But full disclosure, I don't like animals, especially dogs." Izzy blinked. "Wow, you were doing so well." Winced. "Yeah, I felt that crash midair. Still, I figured honesty was part of the package." She sighed, laughing. "You're lucky you kiss better than you cook." "That's literally the only thing keeping me in this relationship, Pitch." He grinned. She wrapped her arms around his neck, leaning in until their foreheads touched. "If I say yes, you'll still make bad pasta and worse jokes?" "It's literally in my DNA." "Then yes," she whispered, closing the last inch between them with a kiss. Later in bed, they lay in the aftermath of warmth and wine and something even softer. "You really want to be my boyfriend?" she teased. "That's a lot of commitment for a man who owns 6 versions of the same hoodie." He grinned in the dark. "One for each month I plan to win you over again." Izzy traced a line down his arm. "You're already ahead." They fell asleep with limbs tangled and phones off, the kind of silence that didn't beg to be filled, only held. Somewhere in her mind, she wondered if real love always snuck up like this, dressed in sarcasm and sincerity. In the morning, sunlight leaked through the blinds like a secret. Harper snored softly beside her, mouth half open, one arm thrown dramatically across the pillow. Izzy stared at him for a long moment, brushing a curl from his forehead. "You really are ridiculous," she whispered. And maybe hers. She slipped out of bed, pulled on his hoodie, and tiptoed into the kitchen. The coffee machine wheezed too, life like a reluctant dragon. As it brewed, she leaned on the counter, heart too full. How did this happen? How did he happen? She didn't know. But she wasn't letting go anytime soon. Izzy curled against Harper on the couch, lazily spooning leftover pasta into her mouth as he scrolled through movie titles. "One thing," she said mid-chew, "we keep things the same at work. Same fake rivalry, it's not time yet." Harper nodded, eyes still on the screen. "Cool. But you do realize your friend Danny probably already knows we're making out in closets, right?" Izzy grinned. "Of course she knows. I tell her everything." Harper turned to her, mock offended. Everything? Like, performance review everything?" She shrugged, licking sauce off her fork. "Let's just say you didn't exactly get 5 stars across the board." He placed a hand over his heart, gasping. "That hurts. I thought I brought at least a 4-star experience." She giggled, then leaned in. "I'm kidding, I might start talking you up. Maybe, if you behave." He leaned closer. "So I've been redeemed in the Danny Chronicles?" "Temporarily," she said, stealing the remote. "Depends on how well you fold laundry next time." "Oh no," he said. "I'm dating someone who ranks people by fabric creases." At work, nothing changed on the surface. Izzy still rolled her eyes at Harper's. Jokes in meetings, Harper still left sarcastic post-its on her desk. No one suspected a thing. Well, except maybe the janitor who definitely caught them kissing behind the supply shelf. Twice. One afternoon, as they snuck into the hallway near the stairwell, the old janitor shuffled past with his mop and paused. Izzy and Harper froze mid-giggle. The janitor looked at them, blinked, and kept walking. "Think he's cool with it?" Harper whispered. "He knows I'm technically his boss," Izzy replied. "He's probably more scared of me than HR, Harper grinned. "Maybe we should honor him by never going near that closet again." Izzy crossed her arms. "You're seriously suggesting we relive our first tragic hookup spot?" He shrugged. "There's poetry in terrible locations. No, you're banned from poetic closets. Their rhythms settled into something strange and beautiful." Harper cooked at her place once a week, always forgetting at least one major ingredient. Izzy had drawer space in his apartment, mostly filled with snacks and half-used lip balms. He learned to love her true crime obsession. She pretended not to love his Star Wars theories. At the office, their flirtations were sharper than ever. People rolled their eyes at the way they bickered, totally unaware of the weekend sleepovers and shared playlists. Izzy began to look forward to Monday mornings, just to see how Harper would surprise her. Coffee orders with cryptic messages, or spreadsheets filled with inside jokes. Izzy was already late when she arrived at the office that morning, juggling keys, coffee, and a half-broken umbrella thanks to a spontaneous downpour. She hadn't planned to go home before work, but she'd forgotten the external hard drive for the campaign files. The elevator ride up was uneventful, until the doors opened and she was hit with the smell of cupcakes and streamers fluttering. In the AC, the entire marketing floor was packed. People gathered around a table filled with snacks, handwritten signs, and one loud centerpiece banner. "Goodbye, Harper, but not your sarcasm." Her heart did a somersault. No one had said a word to her, Not Danny. Not even Amanda from HR, who couldn't keep a secret if her life depended on it. Izzy felt like she'd walked into someone else's party. Harper stood near the cake, smiling like the golden retriever of software consultants, surrounded by developers and designers giving him hugs, fist bumps, and cheesy farewell cards. Izzy blinked twice, trying to process the scene. It shouldn't sting. He was leaving, yes, but the sting came from being the only one who didn't know this was happening. She slipped in quietly near the back, her expression carefully neutral as she grabbed a cup of punch and nodded at a few coworkers. Harper caught her eye mid-sentence with someone from IT and gave her that familiar smirk. Not the cocky one, but the one that said, "You're here. You came." She lifted her cup in silent salute. He winked. Then someone yelled, "Speech, speech," and the chanting began. Harper groaned like it physically pained him. "Guys, come on. Just because I make jokes doesn't mean I'm good at this stuff." Everyone cheered louder. Izzy braced herself. Her fingers tightened around her drink. She expected a jab, a snarky one-liner. What she got was so much worse. Harper cleared his throat and looked down at the half-empty punch cup in his hand like it held wisdom. "Okay, real talk. This company's in my top 3. The other 2 paid more, obviously." Laughter. He smiled. "But seriously, I've been to a lot of places, worked with some incredible teams. But this place gave me something no other job ever did." He paused, scanning the room, then locked eyes with Izzy. A relationship, a real one. A messy, sarcastic, totally unconventional one. So in case you all haven't figured it out by now, Izzy and I are dating. Izzy, mid-sip, choked on her coffee. People gasped. Amanda from HR dropped her pen. Harper raised his eyebrows like, "You really didn't know?" Then grinned. "I mean, come on. Did you really think that much snark came from nowhere? The stairwell? Prime makeout? Supply closet? 5-star Yelp review." The crowd lost it. Izzy wanted to melt into the industrial carpet. He kept going, the bastard. "It started with her blocking me on Hinge after one date. I mean, harsh. I thought I was charming. Apparently sarcasm is a war crime now." The laughter rolled again. Izzy just covered her face with her hands. "But I came here anyway, determined to ruin her professional life until she gave me a chance." Harper glanced at her, voice softening. "She's brilliant and terrifying and patient in ways I didn't know existed. And she gave me something I thought I'd never have again. A chance to be known, to be seen, and to be loved without having to wear a mask." He stepped away from the table, walking straight toward her as the room quieted. "So, yes, I ruined meetings. I insulted slide decks. I renamed your folders with emotionally charged file names. But Izzy, you changed me. Even though I'm leaving this company, I don't plan on leaving you." Izzy's eyes were wide, lips parted in stunned disbelief. He leaned in, bumped his nose against hers like a dork, and whispered, "Still mad? I'm going to kill you," she whispered back. "You deserve it," he said. "But I told you, if you didn't want me to make a scene, you should have given me a deadline." "You're impossible," she muttered. "I'm yours," he replied. And that shut her up long enough for him to kiss her, right there in front of the entire team. The room erupted in laughter and cheers. Someone whistled. Amanda from HR nearly fainted. After the kiss, Harper turned to the crowd. "Okay, group hug denied, but cupcakes are on me. Also, if anyone messes with Izzy, after I'm gone I have your IP addresses." More laughter. Izzy just stood there, red-faced, trying to look mad and failing miserably. Once the party began to die down, people started wandering back to their desks. Harper squeezed her hand under the table and whispered, "That wasn't too embarrassing." "Was it?" She shook her head, eyes still wide. You could have warned me. He shrugged. But then it wouldn't be me. Later that night, they sat in the quiet of his apartment, curled up on the floor eating leftover cake with forks and no plates. Izzy looked over at him. You do realize I'll never live this down at work, right? He smiled. Yeah, but now they know what I knew all along. What's that? She asked. He kissed her forehead. That you're the best thing I ever got from pretending to be someone I'm not. She rolled her eyes, grinning. Gross. Accurate, he said, but gross. The next morning, Izzy arrived at work with her usual iced coffee and mental armor, only to freeze in front of her desk. Sitting there, as if casually delivered by Cupid in business casual, was a stunning bouquet of wildflowers, all mismatched, vibrant, and a little chaotic. Next to it, a box of artisanal chocolates from a shop too expensive for a Thursday, and a card in Harper's unmistakable handwriting. Thanks for the weirdest, hottest, and best 2 months of my life. You're a damn adventure. H. She rolled, her eyes, smiling so hard it hurt. Before even taking off her coat, she snapped a picture of the flowers and texted it to him with, I have a dangerous tendency to get addicted to gifts. You might want to pace yourself. Seconds later, he replied, Good thing this new gig pays more. I plan on spoiling the hell out of you. She flushed. Throughout the day, the office felt off. Not worse, just emptier. Like a sitcom missing its laugh track. Everyone seemed to be waiting for some sarcastic jab, some weird analogy about spaghetti code or childhood trauma disguised as humor. At one point, someone dropped a pen and instinctively glanced toward Harper's desk, expecting a joke. Nothing came. Even Amanda from HR sighed. By lunchtime, Izzy was halfway through organizing campaign feedback when a Slack notification popped up. A file labeled Poderosa Chiffona JPG. She clicked it. It was a Photoshop masterpiece, her head on Marlon. Brando's body from The Godfather, holding a mouse instead of a cat. She snorted so loud 2 interns jumped. Poderosa Chiffona? She texted him. His reply? 4 memes, 3 cry-laughing emojis, and 1 voice note where he tried to do a terrible Italian accent. Apparently, she messaged back, you were assigning aliases like a nerdy spy movie. He answered, It's not espionage, it's morale building. You'd be surprised how motivated Spreadsheet Assassin was with that nickname. She rolled her eyes again, but it felt good to smile this much. Maybe work was slower, but it wasn't without him. Not entirely. In the afternoon, her phone buzzed with another message. Heads up. This Friday, the cult of nerds is assembling to evaluate your soul. Izzy paused, blinking at the screen. Cult? He replied. Annual D&D beer, pizza, personal interrogation ritual. Think bachelor hometown visit, but with more dice and fewer feelings. Should I be scared? She wrote. Very, he texted. They're going to ask you about Star Wars, Python, and probably about our sex life. Not in that order. Great, she said. Can I bring bribes? Only if they're shaped like pizza, he replied. And maybe wear that hoodie I like. It'll soften them. By the end of the day, she missed him, more than she'd expected. She missed the banter, the chaos, the way he made every boring task feel like foreplay for something funnier. She missed rolling her eyes while secretly smiling. She missed the quiet looks, the code-stained fingers, and the way he always made her forget the world was on fire. At home, Danny called while Izzy reheated leftovers. So how's the post-Harper withdrawal going? Manageable. Izzy lied. There were flowers and overpriced chocolate on my desk. It's fine. I'm fine. Everything's fine. Danny didn't even pretend to believe her. Girl, you're glowing. He could move to Pluto and you'd still be simping. Later, Harper sent her a selfie from his new office. 1 eyebrow raised, a sticky note stuck to his forehead that read, I miss you but pretend I don't. She laughed into her pillow. texted back a photo of her floral arrangement with, "Your replacement's prettier than you." And they spent the next hour trading messages like teenagers in detention. Friday came faster than expected. She wore the hoodie, fine, whatever, and packed store-bought cookies that looked vaguely homemade. Harper picked her up with 2 iced coffees and a look that said, "You're going to regret this and you're going to love this at the same time." She pretended not to be nervous. She totally was. Harper opened the door with a grin that could have powered the entire apartment. "You wore the hoodie," he said, clearly pleased. Izzy rolled her eyes. "Yeah, well, I was told it softens interrogations. I also brought cookies. You're welcome." He leaned in and kissed her. Cheek, brief, warm, familiar. "You'll need both." Inside, the apartment was already alive with the sound of laughter and the unmistakable chaos of intelligent nerds drinking cheap beer. She recognized a few faces from Montauk: Max, Tyler, Eva, all mid-debate about whether time travel ruined character arcs or just plot structures. It felt less like a trial, more like a reunion. "Okay, ground rules," Harper said, pulling her into the living room. "No talking politics unless it's Marvel versus DC, no phones. And if anyone asks you what IDE you use, lie and say Notepad. They'll love you for it." Izzy raised an eyebrow. "Do I need a safe word?" "Pineapple," he whispered. "Always pineapple." Within 5 minutes, someone was handing her a cup of questionable punch and yelling, "Trivia round!" from the corner. The questions came fast. First concert? Taylor Swift did Don't Judge. Last lie? I said I liked Harper's haircut once. Biggest regret? She hesitated. Deleting Vine before saving my best content. Everyone, including Harper. Then came the storytelling round. Each person shared a terrible date story. When it was Izzy's turn, she looked Harper dead in the eyes. "I once went on a date with a guy who joked that people in therapy deserve it for believing in love through apps." Groans all around. "Trash!" someone yelled. Harper held up his hands like he was being arrested. "In my defense, I was trying to be funny and ended up being, well, Harper." Max grinned. "You're lucky she didn't leave you on red for life." Izzy smirked. "Oh, I did. He just kept showing up in my Slack feed." Everyone raised their drinks. To persistence and poorly timed jokes. Later, Eva handed Izzy a Nerf gun and said, "We're doing compatibility combat. 10 questions. Answer wrong, get shot." "Wait, is this hazing?" Izzy asked. "No," Eva replied. "This is how we weed out the emotionally unavailable." First question. Did Harper cry during Up? Izzy answered without hesitation. 3 times. Correct. Next. Would Harper rather debug code or confront feelings? Debug code while pretending feelings are a syntax error. Damn. Right, said Max. She got through most questions with flying colors, until the final one. "Do you love him?" Eva asked, completely serious now. The room quieted. Izzy hesitated, then said, "Too much to say it like this." The group gave a collective ooh, like kids in a cafeteria after a good roast. Harper wrapped his arm around her shoulder. "That's a yes," he whispered. "That's definitely a yes." She elbowed him lightly. "Let me survive the night without blushing to death first." "Impossible," he said. "You're wearing my hoodie." The game shifted to Cards Against Humanity, where Harper proved disturbingly good at matching emotional trauma with punchlines. At one point, he passed her a card under the table that just said, "Want to sneak away?" She raised an eyebrow. He mouthed, "Bathroom hallway," with the same look that got her in trouble at work. They slipped away like teenagers cutting class, Harper's hand brushing hers in the dark hallway. "So?" he asked, voice soft now. Was this the worst nerd trial you've ever endured? She smiled. Honestly, kind of charming. I mean, a little chaotic, maybe cult adjacent, but I like your people. You are my people, he said, eyes steady. Later, tangled in his sheets with fairy lights casting sleepy shadows across the room, Izzy lay with her head against his chest, listening to the slow rhythm of his breathing. Do they always ask that many questions? She murmured. Only when they care, he replied, his hand tracing lazy circles along her spine. She tilted her face up to look at him. I meant what I said, by the way. About loving you, it's just, I want to say it when it's not part of a party game. Harper kissed her forehead. Whenever you say it, it'll be perfect. Because it's you. She exhaled, like something inside her finally settled. God, you're infuriatingly sincere sometimes, he grinned. Balance. I offset the sarcasm with rare moments of emotional nudity, she laughed. I hate how much I love that phrase. Good, he said. Now kiss me again before I ruin it with another bad metaphor. So she did, slowly, sweetly, like they had all the time in the world. They didn't talk about the future that night. Not directly, but it hovered in the silence, in the softness, in the way she reached for his hand under the covers like it was instinct. Harper's thumb brushed her knuckles. You're the best. Thing I almost messed up, he whispered, half asleep. Twice, she murmured back. As the city hummed outside and the night settled deeper, Izzy felt something that wasn't fear anymore. It wasn't anxiety or confusion. It was clarity, quiet and certain, like when a puzzle piece finally clicks. Maybe it wasn't about perfect timing. Maybe it was about showing up, hoodie and all. The next morning, Danny called before Izzy had even finished her second cup of coffee. Okay, she said without preamble. I need details, all of them, every board game, every snack, every nerdy initiation ritual. Did they chant something? Were robes involved? Izzy laughed still. Wrapped in Harper's hoodie. No robes. Just a suspicious amount of energy drinks and way too many Star Wars references. Danny hummed. Still can't believe Harper is one of those. He doesn't look like a code gremlin. I expected more Cheeto fingers, less Ryan Gosling energy. Izzy grinned. Honestly, same. I didn't know that side of him either. She hesitated a beat, then added quietly, but I think he left most of that world behind after Lily. Danny didn't ask more. She didn't need to. Her silence was the soft, respectful kind, filled with understanding. You okay? She asked. Instead, Izzy nodded, eyes fixed on the ceiling. Yeah, I think I am. It's weird. I'm used to the butterflies, the chaos. But with Harper, it's just a steady. Like I'm finally allowed to exhale. The following weeks moved with the rhythm of something quietly wonderful. Harper's contract with the company ended, but he didn't go far. He picked up freelance work and spent more time at Izzy's place than his own. Her fridge learned to accommodate both oat milk and real milk. His Spotify Wrapped started including true crime podcasts. They still bickered. She still pretended to hate his jokes. He still acted surprised when she beat him at Mario Kart. But there were new habits too. Folding laundry together, sharing grocery lists, watching documentaries in silence, just holding hands. Real life, Izzy realized, could still feel like a rom-com if the leads showed up for it. One rainy Wednesday, Harper met her outside work with an umbrella and a thermos of hot tea. The tea is because I'm sweet, he said. The umbrella is because I'm practical. You're lucky you're also warm, she replied, stepping under it. He kissed her temple. And yours, he added. Don't forget that part. 1. Evening, after dinner and a particularly heated debate about cereal brands, they were lying on the couch when Harper looked at her with that particular mix of mischief and sincerity that always meant trouble. So, hypothetically, he began, if someone were to propose and say the next calendar year, what would be the odds? Izzy raised an eyebrow. Are we using D&D probability rules or real life? He smirked. I'll roll for charisma. You'll need a modifier of at least plus 110, she warned, and a good kneel form. He leaned closer. Noted. No pressure, of course. Just future planning. Spreadsheet style. Danny, of course, was the first to guess. He's totally going to propose, she said one night, sipping wine and peeking at the ring box Izzy didn't know existed yet. The man made a playlist for your arguments. He's in too deep. Izzy blushed. I don't even care if he does. That's the weird part. I'm already all in. The weekend after their 1-year mark, Harper insisted on a trip somewhere, magical and deeply overpriced. They ended up at a cabin near the Hudson Valley, complete with a fireplace, a view of the mountains, and a suspicious amount of fairy lights. Izzy suspected nothing until she returned from the shower to find Harper kneeling by the window. The ring wasn't flashy. It wasn't massive. It was just right. A delicate band with a vintage setting, slightly off-center, completely perfect. He looked up at her, nervous but smiling. So I figured, since you already know my worst jokes, my messy coding habits, and my Star Wars rankings, maybe you should know this too. I want forever with you. Izzy stared, heart pounding like a runaway train, water still dripping from her hair. Are you seriously doing this while I'm in a towel? He laughed. I figured you're already vulnerable. Lowered defenses. She snorted. You are. Absolutely ridiculous. Then softer. And I love you so damn much. She stepped forward, letting the towel drop just enough to kneel with him. Yes, she whispered. Obviously, yes. He slid the ring onto her finger, hands shaking. Just a little. Then they kissed. The kind of kiss that didn't need a soundtrack, didn't need an audience. It just belonged. Later, wrapped in blankets by the fire, they toasted with hot chocolate and marshmallows. Harper raised his mug. To the girl who blocked me and then unblocked my heart. Izzy rolled her eyes. That was so bad. You're marrying this, he reminded her. Full package, no refunds. Word spread fast. Danny screamed. Eva cried. The spreadsheet assassin from the office sent a GIF. Even the janitor from their old workplace sent a thumbs-up emoji. Harper posted a photo of their hands, ring front and center, with the caption, "Sometimes the algorithm gets it right." Their wedding wasn't huge, just the people who mattered, a playlist of inside jokes and vows that made everyone laugh and cry. Izzy's included the phrase, even when your code breaks and your pasta's too salty. Harper's included, I'll always fight for you. Unless it's over the last slice of pizza, then we'll negotiate. They didn't promise perfection. They promised patience, playlists, and kissing in weird places like stairwells and supply closets. They promised to stay nerdy, stay sarcastic, stay curious about each other. They promised to never stop showing up. With wildflowers, with chocolate, with unfiltered truth. And sometimes when people asked how they met, they'd laugh and say, dating app. But then Izzy would add, it wasn't really the app. It was what came after. The mistakes, the timing, the persistence, the possibility. And Harper would shrug. She blocked me and I showed up anyway. That's love. Because love doesn't always start with fireworks. Sometimes it starts with sarcasm and a missed chance, with tension and coffee runs, with nerds and jokes, and late-night messages. Sometimes it starts when you least expect it, and grows when you choose to stay. So yes, sometimes even on dating apps, the algorithm gets it right. Sometimes you meet someone who helps you find yourself again, and When you do, you write your own love story together forever.